Welcome back, GED scholars, to another science video. And if you're like, lady, it says use your calculator at the top. It talks about statistics and probability. And your note on the screen reads lessons on central tendency, probabilities, combinations, and permutations. This sounds like math. Well, you're right, folks, because on the science exam, you might see a few math questions. But the math questions that you will see on the science exam aren't going to be many math questions. You might get one, two, maybe three. So don't panic about it and just understand that A, you can use your calculator on some of those questions. And B, it's really important that you just make sure you understand what central tendency is, what probabilities are, and accounting techniques for combination and permutations. So the first one that we want to talk about is central tendency. And central tendency is the mean or the average, the median, which is the middle value of a set of numbers, the mode, which is the number or the value that occurs the most, and then the range, which is the difference between the highest and the lowest value. If you're like, I just don't understand, once again, don't panic, folks, because you need to make sure that you understand what these words mean. So you have to work on the vocabulary for not just the science exam, but all of the exams. And then once again, you can use your calculator. And some of the times, folks, you're going to know that, hey, I don't even need to use my calculator. So for example, if they were asking you what is the median of a set of numbers, give us this set of numbers. And we can see up here, this first row up here, they're talking about hours. So the numbers in the second row, the 43, 28, 36, all of these numbers have to do with the hour that maybe a person worked. Maybe this is, how many steps they took, or maybe this is how much money they made in that first hour, the second hour, third hour, things like that. And so if they were to ask you, well, what is the median of this set of data, and which is that's the middle value, you need to just make sure that you take these numbers that they've given you and you put them in order. So we would start with the lowest. So we have 24. So I have 24. What's the next largest one that I see? So I have 24, then I have 28, and then after 28, we have 32. So after 32, we have 36. After 36, 37, 38, and then 43. And this doesn't look like a 38. So now when they ask me, what is the middle value? Well, if there's 7, my middle value is going to be number 4. That middle value is 4 right there. So then I could say, okay, well, the median is going to be 36. And whatever answer choice A, B, C, D has 36, that's what I'm going to choose. Let's say that instead of 7, they only gave you 6, right? So let's say that this 43 isn't there anymore. We're going to white this out. It's not 36 anymore because 36 isn't the middle number. That's the nice thing about if they give you an odd number, there's that middle one, right? It sits right perfectly in the middle like we saw up here. 3 to the left, 3 to the right, number 4 would be that median. But when they give you an even number, what you need to do is same concepts, arrange it in that order, starting with the smallest on the left and then the largest going over to the right. But now instead, what you're going to do is you're going to take the 2 middle numbers that we see here, right? And we know they're the 2 middle because I have 2 on my left of the 32. I have 2 to the right of my 36. And now I'm going to add 32 plus 36. And I'm going to get 68. And then I have to take the 68 and divide it by 2, and that will give me that median number. 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So then the median would be 34. So just understand, folks, it's really important that you understand the vocabulary and then just make sure that you practice. And things like this, folks, aren't that difficult. Once you do it a couple of times and you understand what they're asking of you, you'll be perfectly fine when it comes to central tendency questions. Next up, probability. And yes, folks, you might get a probability question on the science exam. So just like I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you understand the vocabulary that goes along with this. And so we can see for probability, we have independent probability, dependent probability, and then experimental probability. And so when it comes to probability, the most simple idea that you can think of is if they were to give you some type of spinner, right? And you know that this spinner has all these different numbers, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I apologize that this is messy. But basically what you might see is that they would say, okay, you're going to spin this, and what is the probability that you'll land on the 2? Well, if there's 8 spaces, there's only 1 space of 2, it's 1 out of 8. The probability of me landing on the 2 is 1 out of 8. This is an independent event that is taking place, though. There was 8 spaces, but 2 of them had the number 2, and they said, what's the probability of you landing on one of the number 2 spaces? Well, if I have 2 of those, I would have 2 out of 8. And now, yes, of course, I need to do some math, and I'm going to reduce this fraction, and I'm going to get 1 out of 4, or a 25% probability that that's where I would land. So you want to be mindful that this is a single event. An example of not only an independent probability setup that we might see on the exam, but also of one that has more than one event. And of course, when you have more than one event, you're going to have to do some multiplication. So say, for example, the question reads something about, Mary tosses 2 coins into the air. What is the probability that both will land so that the head sides are showing? So you would have to then do the probability of coin number 1 and then the probability of coin number 2. This is the thing I want you to pay attention to, especially when it comes to this example, is that this is an independent probability. One event has occurred, and that event does not affect the probability of the other event. So what I mean is the way this first coin lands has no effect on how the second one lands. So let's say, for example, the first time you toss this first coin, it lands on heads. Just because it landed on heads doesn't all of a sudden change how the second one is going to land. It doesn't have any effect on it. So you could, have the first one lands on head, the second one ends up landing on head. The first one lands on tail, and then the second one ends up landing on tail as well. And you could keep doing this back and forth. But what we know and what we like about coins is that you basically have a 50% chance, right? It's 1 out of 2. So if the question is asking me what is the likelihood that they will both land on heads, well, I know it's 1 out of 2 here, right? I got a 1 out of 2 chance here, and I have a 1 out of 2 chance here. So what I need to do now, because it's no longer a single event, I'm going to multiply both of these together in order to get my answer. So if they asked me what is the probability that both will land, so the heads sides are showing, the probability is 1 out of 4, or 25%. And although, once again, these are single events, but 2 are happening together, that's why we needed to multiply. And this is a great example of an independent probability. So this is what we see here. I'm going to share with you is an example of a dependent probability. And that happens when first event takes place, the probability of the second event is changed. So let's say, for example, you get a question and it reads, a box contains 4 blue marbles and 2 red marbles. If you select 2 red marbles, what is the probability that both will be blue? Okay, so we can see right there that they're giving us an opportunity to pull 2 marbles from this bag, box, whatever you want to call it, the problem is giving you. So if there are 6 marbles in this box, in this bag, and 4 of them are blue, the probability that the first marble that you will pull is going to be 4 out of 6 or 2 out of 3, right? So we have 4 right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that first probability is 4 out of 6. My favorable outcome is at the top. The number of trials in the experiment is down here, and this is 6. It's my total. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reduce that fraction down to 2/3. So the probability that the first one is blue is 2 out of 3. Well, now that I've already pulled one and it was blue, I'm going to cross this one out. Now I only have 5 of those marbles left for me to pull. And they're asking me, well, what is the chance that the second time you pull, it will be blue as well? So now the probability for the second marble, if I have 1, 2, 3, is going to be 3 out of 5. So the probability the first time to pull a blue marble is 2 out of 3. The second time is 3 out of 5. This is a dependent probability. Why? Because out of the 6, I'm already going to pull 1 marble. Even if that first marble wasn't blue, and let's say it was red, when it came to the second time that I pull a marble, this denominator, this number right here, is still going to be 5. I already took 1 away the first round that I got. So you want to be mindful of things like that. And just like we saw with the coins where we had to multiply, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do 2/3 times 3/5. And then we're going to get 6 over 15, or when we reduce that, we get 2 out of 5. So folks, just be mindful that once again, you want to pay attention to the vocabulary, pay attention to simple things like, do I understand when there is an independent probability question where the first draw, first whatever it is, coin toss, will not affect the second one? And do you understand the concept of a dependent probability? Last but not least, folks, combinations and permutations. The nice thing about combinations and permutations is that you can use your calculator to find both of them. And so on the screen, as you can see on on the left, I'm sharing with you information that is actually from the calculator user guide. And so they tell you that with this PRB button that you could use, you can then go ahead and calculate permutations and combinations. And folks, we have a video that goes over this information, and that's what you're actually about to see next, is me just playing the video that we already have shared, as you can tell, 3 years ago.
When it comes to combinations, you probably learned how to figure out the answer with maybe a table. They told you, hey, list out your options, and then you'll be able to figure out your answer from there. However, why are we going to do this by hand and take up more time when the calculator can do it for us? So this is really important for you to make sure you understand that it's only with one type of item. So if the question is asking you about how many different combinations of outfits Johnny can have if he has 6 pairs of pants, 3 pairs of shoes, and 7 shirts, that will be done by using the fundamental counting principle. But as you can see from the example on the screen, there are only one type of combination or large group to select from, and that's the fruit. And so we're going to be able to use our calculator with this one. So the first thing you want to make sure you do is obviously read your question so you know if it's a combination or permutation question. It'll give you a hint by saying how many combinations. Next, you need to find out the total number of items you get. This is the larger group and will be represented with the variable n. Then you need to find out the number of combinations you want from that larger group, and this would be represented by the variable r. If you're confused because you didn't even know there were variables involved in finding combinations, don't worry, we're about to take a look at the calculator and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So as I mentioned, we have an example on the screen. It says you have a total of 4 fruits to choose from and only want 2 different kinds. How many combinations of 2 kinds of fruit can you buy? My total number, which is going to be represented by the variable n, is 4. The smaller number, which is 2, is going to be the number of combinations I would want from that larger group, and that's going to be represented by the variable r. So once I know this information, I'm going to come over to my calculator, and in the second row, second key in from the left, you'll see PRB. So that's going to be the key that we use. So the first thing I need to do is insert the larger number. What is that group, that big group? So I'm going to press the 4 key, and then I'll come up here where it says PRB. I'm going to press that key, and you're going to notice a small menu that pops up. NPR and CR. Number 2 is what we want for this example. That is our combinations. So I'm going to press the 2 key, or I can use my arrow keys to move down to the number 2 option. And then once I get back on my main screen, there are those variables I was talking about, N and the R. The 4 is for N, which is the larger group, and now we have to put in what the R stands for, which is how many combinations do we want out of this larger group. For my example, I want 2, so I'm going to press the 2 key, and then I'll press enter, and there is the answer for you. So let's go ahead and try a different example. You are choosing 4 of your friends for a special trip. Your friends Joe, Mary, Lori, Chris, and Zach are excited to see who's going. Out of your 5 friends, how many teams of 4 are possible? Order does not matter. Since order does not matter because I'm making a selection, then I'm going to use my combination function. So what is my total number that I get? 5. Then I'm going to come up to the PRB key and I'm going to press that, choose number 2 for combinations, and then what is my variable R standing for? We're going to say 4. I want to see how many teams of 4 are possible. And then I'll press enter, and there's your answer, folks. There are 5 different teams that you could create out of your friends to go on this trip. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can use the calculator now to figure out permutations using that same key. So permutations is when you arrange several items out of a larger group, and order does matter. So remember, combinations you select, order does not matter, and then permutations you arrange when order does matter. For example, how many possible sequences are there if you have 4 things to do in one day? Order matters because you can only complete one activity at a time, and once it's completed, it's no longer an issue. So once again, first make sure you read your question so you know if it's combination, permutation, and the question will give you a hint, hopefully by saying something like how many possible sequences, how many possible orderings. And the same way we were figuring out the combinations when we were looking for the total number of items, variable n, and the number of combinations we want when the order does matter from that larger group, which will be r. So when you have those 2 numbers, let's get to our calculator and then see what the answers are. So The example on the screen reads, there's a race with 10 runners and only prizes for the first 3 who pass the finish line. How many possible sequences of the top 3 prize winners are there? This makes sense. It's a race, so they have first, second, and third place. So what we're going to do is, and order obviously does matter. So what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and press 1 and 0. I need 10 because that's the total number. Then I'm going to press my PRB key, and now I want option 1, NPR. So either use your arrow keys to, well, I guess you don't even need to use your arrow keys because it's the first one. So either press enter, or you can press 1, and then you're going to see it on your screen. 10 NPR. How many do I want out of this? I want 3. So once I've inputted all that information, I will press enter, and I have 720 different sequences, possible sequences for these runners. Let's try another one. You forgot your password that has 5 characters. How many possible sequences of those 5 characters are there? So this is interesting because you're going to be like, hey, neither one is larger than the other. That was what kind of was helping me out. This isn't any different, folks, than this permutation or the combination examples we saw. Okay, the larger group is 5. There's 5 characters, and they want to know how many sequences of those 5 characters are there. So we're going to come to our calculator, and same thing. 5, it's my larger group, PRB, and I want the first one, NPR, so I'll select it, and then I want 5 out of that group. Order matters. And I'm going to press enter. I have 120 different sequences that could be used for this password. Awesome. Let's look at a third example. You have 6 tasks to complete at work, but know you can only complete 4. How many orderings of the 4 tasks are there? So when it says, or when it asks how many orderings, we know sequence matters. So I'm going to do another permutation. What is my large group that I'm going to pull from? 6 PRB, number 1. What do I want from it? I'm only going to be able to do 4 tasks. Let's see how many different sequences or orderings I have. 360 different orderings.
Thanks for watching this video, folks. As I mentioned throughout this video, please make sure you are aware of the different vocabulary you will see on all of the exams, especially the science exam. You will be asked to do some math when it comes to the science exam, so be mindful of that. Pay attention to the vocabulary, pay attention to practicing as much as you can, because the more you practice, the more permanent those skills become. And remember, folks, you know what you're doing. Keep your head up. You've got this.